you mentioned something I want to pick up on, and that we've got to learn from failure. And the airline industry is very good at this, isn't it, in relation to people being able to report incidents. Am I right in this? Anonymously, in order to learn, not to judge, not to point fingers. And I appreciate if there is a tragedy, if there is a serious incident, then there is a full aircraft investigation. But tell us a little bit about the power of learning from failure, which the airline industry has embraced for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so it's all about just culture. And in essence, when something goes wrong, we split the learning and the blaming, or the learning and the accountability. And that is enshrined actually in international recommendations from the United Nations, from the International Civil Aviation Organization. It's enshrined in UK law in how the Air Accident Investigation Branch work, for example. And we're about to have a change in the law in healthcare, which will set up a statutory body to do exactly the same. So when something goes wrong, the danger is if you know somebody, if you've made a mistake and something bad's happened, what you don't want is to clam up and say no comment, my honour, or my lord, or whatever you say in legal terms. So you want people to share fully what has happened so you can learn from it. That's the priority.
Right.
Now, having learned from it, then the second stage is then whether you hold people to account or not, etc., etc. But they're separate, done by separate people. And again, when I came into healthcare, and I suspect it's the same in a lot of large institutions and organizations, what I discovered was that when an incident occurs, then the people doing the investigating are inevitably the management team of the department where the incident worked.
Yes.
The incident happened. And so, with the best will in the world, you can't separate the learning and the blaming in that particular, or the learning and the sanction, whatever you want to say. So learning has to be done independently. And the other thing is that learning, as I say, has to look at all the causal factors and look at all the systemic factors. When something goes wrong in whatever industry, there might be genuinely a bad person. There might be a Harold Shipman, for example.
Right.
But the reality is that is extremely rare. What we're more interested in is how did the system make it easy for it to go wrong? What are the system things that we can put in place to help get it right? So, for example, a patient is injected with the wrong drug. Okay. So who did the injection? Who was their boss? Who supervised? Who checked it? That doesn't help. What you need to look at is actually, well, okay, so what was happening at the time? Why did it make sense at the time? And what you'll find, for example, is that perhaps the drug that they were giving is in very similar packaging to a drug that does something else.
Okay.
Similar packaging, and that you find the drugs cupboard was disorganized, and then people were being distracted by phone calls, and suddenly you're saying, okay, we're starting to see system things now that say that if we get rid of this bad person who made this error, it could actually happen to somebody else. And I had a conversation a number of years ago with a clinical director, a nursing director of an NHS hospital, and we were talking about drug errors. And she said, the normal protocol is that, if a nurse makes a mistake, we suspend that nurse for a while. We take away their ability to administer drugs for a while as a kind of punishment.